Machiavelli didn't care about being rich. He cared about never being controlled. There's a difference, a massive one. Most people chase money to feel safe. He chased money to stay untouchable. And in 500 years, nobody has improved on his rules. If you've ever been broke and desperate at the same time, you already know why this matters. Desperation makes you predictable. Predictable people get used. Used people stay poor. Machiavelli watched princes rise and fall for one reason more than any other: money. Not how much they had, how they handled it. He never wrote a finance book. He didn't need to. Every page of The Prince is about power, and power, stripped down, is just money that learned how to protect itself. Today we're pulling 8 rules out of that book. Cold rules, uncomfortable rules, the kind nobody puts on a motivational poster. Stay to the end. The last one is the one that actually changes how you live. Here's what most people skip. Machiavelli wasn't rich when he wrote these rules. He was unemployed, exiled, living on a small, struggling farm, borrowing against his own name just to keep the lights on. He didn't write about power from a palace. He wrote it from the exact position most of us are terrified of: broke, ignored, and starting over. That's why the rules hit differently than the average finance book. They weren't written by someone who got lucky. They were written by someone who studied exactly how he lost everything, so it wouldn't happen twice. Most writers on success only study winners. Machiavelli studied collapses, bankrupt princes, broke mercenaries, cities that starved during long wars. He built his rules from watching exactly how smart, capable men still lost everything. That's a completely different education than reading about someone's lucky break. Winners tell you what worked once. Collapses tell you what breaks every single time. Machiavelli chose to study the second one. Rule 1 starts with a question almost nobody asks themselves honestly. Who controls your next paycheck? Say the name in your head: a boss, a client, a platform, a market. Now ask yourself something worse. What happens to you the day that person changes their mind? Rule 1: never depend on one master. Machiavelli watched mercenary captains build entire fortunes serving one prince. Loyal, skilled, useful, everything you're taught to be. And the second that prince didn't need them anymore, they had nothing. No army, no income, no leverage. One master, one point of failure. This is the first money rule. Never let one person, one job, one client, or one platform hold your entire life in their hands. Not because loyalty is bad, because dependence is dangerous. Watch how fast comfort turns into a trap. You get one good client, one good boss, one steady paycheck. You stop building anything else. Why would you? Things are fine. Then one email arrives, or one phone call, and fine disappears in a single afternoon. Machiavelli built his entire philosophy around this exact moment, the moment fortune turns. Look at Cesare Borgia, Machiavelli's favorite case study in the entire book. Cesare built his power almost entirely on his father's papal support. One relationship, one master, dressed up as an alliance. The moment his father died, Cesare's empire cracked open in months. Everything he built, gone. Not because he was weak, because his foundation was one man's goodwill. Machiavelli watched that collapse and wrote the lesson down so you wouldn't have to live it yourself. Same story today, different costume. A creator loses their income the day a platform changes its algorithm. An employee loses everything the day a company restructures. A freelancer loses their rent money the day one client stops replying. None of them did anything wrong. They just built their entire life on one master and never noticed until the master let go. Diversify before you need to, not after. Machiavelli called luck fortuna, a wheel that turns whether you're ready or not. His answer wasn't to hope the wheel stays still. His answer was to prepare for the turn before it happens. That's rule 1, in one sentence. Build your income like the wheel is already turning against you. Multiple streams, multiple skills, multiple doors out. Not because you're paranoid, because you're paying attention. Here's rule 2, and this one costs people friendships. Machiavelli said it plainly. Never lend money to people close to you. Rule 2, Don't lend money. Lend nothing. You can't lose. Not because he hated people, because he understood something most people learn too late. Money changes the shape of a relationship the second it moves hands. Lend a friend money, and you're no longer a friend. You're a debt they now have to manage or avoid. Watch what happens next. They stop calling. Not because they don't like you, because guilt is exhausting to be around. You didn't just lose the money, you lost the relationship trying to protect it. This is where people get it wrong. They think generosity is the same as weakness. It isn't. Machiavelli wasn't against generosity. He was against blind generosity. The kind with no strategy behind it. Give when it builds something. Give when it costs you nothing you can't afford to lose. Never give when it's your only safety net. Somebody's going to hear this and think it sounds heartless. Ask them one question back. How many loans in their life were ever actually repaid? Most people can count them on 0 fingers. A loan you never expect back isn't generosity gone wrong. It's a gift you were too proud to call a gift. Call it what it is before you hand it over. It changes how much you're willing to give and how much resentment you avoid later. In The Prince, Machiavelli warns rulers directly. A leader who tries to appear endlessly generous eventually runs out of money. Then he has to raise taxes, punish his own people, turn love into resentment. The lesson translates perfectly to your bank account. Generosity without limits doesn't make you loved forever. It makes you broke, then resented for stopping. Protect the base. Give from the surplus, never from the foundation. Rule 3 is the one that will make people call you cold. Let them. Rule 3. Keep your money private. Machiavelli understood something brutal about human nature. The moment people know what you have, they start deciding what they think you owe them. Family, friends, acquaintances from 10 years ago who suddenly reappear. Silence protects you. Silence protects your peace. Nobody negotiates with information they don't have. You don't owe anyone a breakdown of your income, your savings, or your plans. Not your co-workers, not your cousins, not the group chat. Talk less about money. Move more with it. Renaissance rulers understood this instinctively. Treasuries were guarded secrets, not public ledgers. Enemies who didn't know how much gold a city actually had couldn't calculate exactly how long a siege would take to break it. Uncertainty is a wall nobody can climb. It protects you longer than any lock does. The same principle works for your salary, your savings account, and your investments. Nobody can pressure a number they don't know. Most people overshare about money for one simple reason. It feels good in the moment. Validation. A little bit of status. Machiavelli would call that trade a bad one. You give up leverage for a few seconds of feeling impressive. Every time you announce a raise, a bonus, or a big purchase, you hand strangers a number they can use against you later. In a negotiation, in a favor they'll ask for, in a comparison they'll silently hold against you. Enjoy the win privately. Let your bank account be the only place that actually knows the truth. A co-worker who never mentions their salary is impossible to lowball in a raise negotiation. A freelancer who never posts their rates gets to charge every client differently, based on the value, not on a public number everyone compares against. Privacy isn't secrecy for its own sake. It's keeping the one piece of leverage nobody can take from you if they never had it. Rule 4 sounds harsh out loud, but every wealthy person you respect already lives by it. It's better to be feared with your money than loved because of it. Rule 4: respect over likability. Machiavelli said a leader is safer being feared than loved, because love depends on other people's feelings. Fear depends only on consistency. Apply that to money, and it becomes something sharper. Be known as someone who doesn't get taken advantage of, not someone who's easy to borrow from, guilt into spending, or pressure into investing. The second people believe they can bend your wallet with emotion, they will, every single time. You don't need to be cruel, you need to be consistent. Consistency is what fear actually means here. Predictable boundaries, not explosions. Just know, the first time you say no to a family member asking for money, it feels like betrayal. The 10th time, it feels like a policy. That's not you becoming cold, that's you finally becoming consistent. And consistency is the only thing people actually respect long term. People test boundaries exactly once. If the boundary holds, they test it forever. If it bends, this is the part people twist, feared. In Machiavelli's sense, was never about cruelty. It meant respected enough that people thought twice before crossing you. Nobody hates the person with clear, calm boundaries. They might complain about it once, quietly, and then respect it forever. The people who actually resent you long-term are usually the ones you kept saying yes to, until the resentment built on your side instead of theirs. You've met someone who says no calmly and never explains why. Notice how nobody argues with them twice. That's rule 4 in a single sentence. A calm no is worth more than a guilty yes. None of this means turning every relationship into a transaction. It means being selective about which relationships you let money touch at all. Some people are worth keeping money completely out of the equation, forever. Machiavelli would call that its own kind of strategy, protecting the few bonds that don't need a contract by refusing to test them with one. Rule 5. The fox and the lion. Machiavelli's most famous line about power splits it into two animals. The lion, strength, force, the ability to fight when it's necessary. The fox, cunning, pattern recognition, the ability to see a trap before you walk into it. Most people pick one and stay there their entire life. That's the mistake. All lion, no fox. And you fight fair while everyone else plays dirty. You lose. All fox, no lion. And you spot every trap but never have the strength to walk away from a bad deal. You lose slower, but you still lose. Money rewards people who can do both. Read the trap, then have the spine to walk. Read every contract like a fox. Negotiate every price like a fox. Then, when it's time to walk away from a bad deal, walk like a lion. No hesitation, no second guessing. Weak negotiators explain themselves. Strong ones just leave. A fox reads the fine print twice before signing anything. A fox notices the salary offer that's negotiable only after you push back, not before. A fox clocks the investor who talks more about vision than numbers. And a lion, once the trap is confirmed, doesn't sit in the meeting arguing about it. A lion stands up and leaves the room. Silence after that is its own kind of leverage. The people who need you will come back with a better offer. The ones who don't were never worth the deal. Patience is part of the fox's toolkit too, not just cleverness. Machiavelli's princes rarely won by acting first. They won by watching everyone else act first, then moving once the board was clear. The best financial decision you make this year might not be a move at all. It might be the deal you were smart enough to walk away from and wait out. Rule 6 is the one nobody wants to hear, because it sounds selfish. It isn't. It's survival. Rule 6. Self-interest is not a sin. Machiavelli didn't believe people act out of pure goodness. He believed people act out of self-interest, and the ones who admit it are the only honest ones in the room. This isn't permission to be cruel. It's permission to stop apologizing for protecting yourself. You are allowed to say no to a deal that only benefits someone else. You are allowed to walk away from exposure, from opportunity, from family business offers with no contract and no clear terms. Self-interest isn't the villain here. Naivety is. Here's a test. Next time someone pitches you something, listen for one word: trust. Just trust me on this one. You don't need it in writing. We trust each other. The people who actually deserve trust never need to say the word. They just show it. With contracts, with receipts, with consistency. The word trust used as a pressure tactic is Rule 6's biggest warning sign. Notice a pattern over time, and you'll see it everywhere. The people who repeat the word trust the most are often the ones asking you to skip the one thing that would prove it: paperwork. Real trust doesn't need to be requested. It gets demonstrated slowly through actions that hold up even when nobody's watching. Machiavelli wasn't cynical for no reason. He watched this exact pattern play out in every court he ever studied. A handshake deal feels warm in the moment. It feels like proof. Somebody believes in you. It rarely survives the first disagreement. Machiavelli would tell you the handshake was never the deal. The paper was always the deal. Everything before the signature is just a conversation. Get it in writing, every time. Especially with people you love. Especially when it feels unnecessary. That's exactly when it's most necessary. People will make asking for terms feel like an accusation. Don't you trust me? Flip that question back in your head. If a fair deal falls apart, the moment someone asks for it in writing, it was never a fair deal to begin with. A good partner, a real one, respects the paperwork. Only a bad one treats it as an insult. Picture a business partnership pitched over coffee. Excitement, big numbers. A friend who just knows this is going to work. No contract, because contracts feel like they ruin the mood. 6 months later, the business is profitable, and suddenly nobody agrees on who owns what. The friendship dies in a group chat full of screenshots. Machiavelli would say the contract wasn't the problem. The absence of one was. Rule 7. Control beats income. Machiavelli obsessed over one idea more than any other. Control. Not how much a prince had, how much he controlled. A high salary you can lose in one meeting isn't wealth. It's a leash with good lighting. Real wealth looks like ownership. A skill nobody can take from you. A business, even a small one, that answers to you and nobody else. An asset that earns while you sleep. Income is what they give you. Control is what you build. Ask yourself this. Honestly, if the thing paying you disappeared tomorrow, what's actually still yours? If the honest answer is nothing, that's not a failure. That's just information. Use it. Machiavelli's princes who lasted longest weren't the richest. They were the ones with their own armies, their own fortresses, their own loyal ground. Borrowed strength always gets called back eventually. Your version of a fortress might be a skill, a small business, a piece of property, an audience that follows you and not your employer. Start building it now, while you still have the safety net of the master you don't fully trust yet. Rule 8. Don't flaunt it. Machiavelli warned rulers about one specific danger. Visible wealth invites envy. Envy invites enemies. A prince who displayed his riches openly didn't look powerful for long. He looked like a target. The same rule protects you today. The people who talk the least about their money are usually the ones who actually have it. Loud spending gets attention. Attention gets opinions. Opinions get expensive. Reinvest quietly. Grow quietly. Let the results speak years later, when nobody can argue with them anymore. Watch how differently people treat someone who never explains their money versus someone who explains all of it. One gets respected, one gets studied, judged, and quietly resented. Machiavelli understood mystery is a form of protection. Use it. Some of the wealthiest men in history lived in modest houses, drove modest cars, and let the assets do the talking, not out of humility, out of strategy. A visible fortune invites lawsuits, borrowers, and enemies. A quiet one just compounds, undisturbed. For decades, nobody negotiates a discount from a stranger. Nobody asks a stranger for a loan. Stay a little more of a stranger, even to people who know you. None of this means abandon your family in a real emergency. Machiavelli wasn't writing rules against love. He was writing rules against blind, undefended generosity. There's a difference between helping someone you love through a genuine crisis and quietly funding a pattern that never changes. Help once, with your eyes open. Help forever, with no boundary, and you're not being loving. You're being used slowly and calling it loyalty. Myth 1. People think Machiavelli's rules only work if you're already rich. Wrong. He wrote every one of them while broke. These aren't rules for protecting a fortune. They're rules for building one from nothing. Myth 2. People think following these rules means becoming heartless. Also wrong. Every rule here protects relationships as much as it protects money. Unpaid loans end friendships. Oversharing ends trust. Guilt-based deals end in resentment. Cold logic applied early prevents the exact heartbreak most people blame on bad luck later. 8 rules. None of them about luck. None of them about a secret formula. Never depend on one master. Don't lend what you can't lose. Keep your money private. Choose respect over likability. Be the fox and the lion. Stop apologizing for self-interest. Chase control, not just income. Never flaunt what you're building. Read that list again. Notice something. Not one of these rules requires you to be cruel. Every single one requires you to stop being naive. That's the part people misunderstand about Machiavelli the most. He wasn't teaching men to become monsters. He was teaching men to stop getting used by people who already understood these rules and never told them. Think about it honestly. Who actually sat you down and explained any of this? Nobody in school, rarely anyone at home. Most people learn these 8 rules the hardest way possible. After the loss, after the bad deal, after the friend who disappeared with their money and their friendship on the same day. Machiavelli wrote them down 500 years ago, so you wouldn't have to pay that price to learn them yourself. So here's the real question. Which one of these 8 rules have you been breaking without even noticing? Maybe it's the one master, the single client, the single paycheck you've been quietly afraid to lose. Maybe it's the money you lent someone last year and haven't heard from them since. Maybe it's the silence you never kept, the details you gave away to people who never needed to know them. Maybe it's the yes you gave when every part of you wanted to say no. Maybe it's the deal you shook hands on and never once wrote down. Maybe it's the fortune you've been quietly building and telling everyone about one post at a time. Machiavelli didn't write these rules to make you cold. He wrote them so you'd stop being surprised. Surprise is what breaks people financially, not the loss itself. The fact that they never saw it coming. Every rule in this video removes one blind spot, one at a time, until surprise stops being something that happens to you. If one of these 8 rules just made you uncomfortable, that's not an accident. That's the one you need most. In the next video, we're going deeper into Rule 5, the fox and the lion, the exact moments in negotiation where most people fold, and the specific line Machiavelli would use instead. It's the difference between reacting to power and actually understanding how it moves. Subscribe now, because the next one is the rule that separates the people who talk about power from the people who actually hold it. One notification. That's all it takes to make sure you don't miss it.